Good evening, everybody. It is so good to see so many people here. This is going to be a great live. Okay, Leah will be joining me in a little bit. She is at a baseball game with her kids and will join us as soon as she gets back home or gets her kids in bed. Just mind blown. This week has been crazy. So, Desiree Young gets on an interview and just starts dropping mind blowing bombshells about this case. Exactly what we need to get this case some more awareness so the public can actually see some things that are going on in the case. Today is May 15th, 2024. I'm Samantha. Kalia will be joining me shortly. Hello, Halo. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a great mod for our channel. And we've got Shaylee Monton. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Mrs. Barbecue is here. And so many other people. This is great. We've got Kathy. Hello, good to see you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Crime Sleuthin. I just can't tell you guys how mind blown I am. I really, really can't. And me and Kaylee have not been able to stop talking about this information since we saw it. I am out this weekend on Mother's Day. I am shopping for plants for my garden. I'm at Home Depot. My phone rings. I answer it. Kaylee is like, "You're never gonna believe this." And she tells me that Doug Bishop is doing a show and an interview with Desiree Young. And she said, "Sam, I'm only 20 minutes into it. You're not going to believe what's going on." I had so much to do that day, so much gardening to do, so much. I didn't want to do any of it. After I found out, all I wanted to do was sit down and watch the interview. And then I did. And I have pushed replay on that video at least 10 times. And every time I replay it, I hear something new or I connect something different to Kyron's case. Some of the information that she gives helps people like me and Kaylia put together a better timeline. It just does so much, especially when we're constantly, you know, sitting here wondering what's going on, or we're trying to come up with our own theories, which, by the way, we hit the nail on the head with a few, which I am so happy for, because, you know, you come up with these theories, you wonder if they're right, and yeah, I'm just so excited. So I hope everybody can hear me okay. Kaylee is usually the one that lets me know everything's going well, but since I'm not seeing everybody blowing up saying that you guys can't hear me, everything's going well. And we're going to just hop right into it. The first couple of segments of this is basically introductions into Kyron. There's what he calls chapters. There's 13 chapters. We're going through it all. We're going through the whole thing. If you guys have seen it, that's awesome. If you haven't, that's great too. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about a few things. I've got one little video clip that I'm going to show when Desiree starts talking about these burner phones. And because there has already been rumors started by Terri supporters. They literally attacked Desiree Young on Mother's Day. The day that this video comes out, they instantly go live and instantly are tearing Desiree down, saying she's spreading misinformation. It's insane. Not only that people can do that to a mother of a missing child, but it's just shocking that people like that can do it on Mother's Day to a mother of a missing child. And the only question that I would have is, how the hell do you know what's misinformation or not when this information is coming from Kyron's mom herself, the one that's privy to information in Kyron's case? Nobody has the right to question her. That's just my feelings on it. And yeah, let's get started with this video. I will be pausing and in and out. I have my phone here to check messages if anybody has any questions. And yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out for Kalia. I don't share my screen often, so. Just let me know in the chat if everybody can see this. I'm going to blow it up. Because when I'm over here, hello, Sally Mae. When I'm over here, I can't see what's going on. Okay, I'm seeing it on my phone, so everybody's here to see it. And let's get started. This is chapter 1, and this is just basic information about Kyron and what Desiree has to say about Kyron. I probably won't pause through this segment, but you can guarantee that the rest of the segments will be pausing to have some conversations.
Chapter 1, Innocence Lost.
Tell me a little bit about Kyron.
Kyron is a very shy, super.
Let me know if you can hear this. Give me a thumbs up, Halo, if you can hear the video well, please.
Funny, very compassionate and loving child. Kyron is super intelligent. You don't realize he's in a room and he's paying attention and taking it all in. And then he'll pop off with some really complicated word, and you just are like, where in the world did you get that? And he picked it up from someone somewhere, and he just is that kid that you love being around. I have an older son, and those two would feed off of each other, and it's just hilarious to watch them because Quinn would just look at him with this face all super serious, and then Kyron would start cracking up, and they would just go with it, and it was like a comedy act. And on the weekends, it was all about family time. Mm-hmm. We just would hang around the house, or he would ride his bike, and we'd go for walks around the neighborhood. We know all of our neighbors. We're super close with our neighbors. That's the people that we are. We look out for each other. We've always been that way. We have a tight group, a trusted group. Like, our life had structure and boundaries, and you just wouldn't expect this to happen. You just wouldn't ever expect it. It's hard for me to know that aspect of our lives and to know that he went missing.
Skyline second grader Kyron Horman did not arrive home from school today.
Kyron!
Kyron, we miss you, we love you, and we need you home right now.
No, it is so heartbreaking when you... Oh, here's Kalia. Is that Kalia? Nope, she's not on yet. It is so disheartening to see her so upset. She talks about this tight-knit family, that they were, everything was working for them as a family. And here you've got this one person in the family, Terri Horman, that is sitting there plotting and just stuff for months in the background. You think you have this wonderful family, and yet there's a person plotting to take either the father away, like the murder for hire, or take the child away. It's mind-blowing. And I'm not going to lie, I have shed many, many tears during this interview. So if I do tear up again, just bear with me. Hello, Sally Mae. Hello, William. thank you guys for both being here, and let's just continue.
Chapter 2, Mask of Deceit.
I found out about her from my best friend. She made him call me on July 15, 2002 at 4 a.m. I was pregnant, and Kane had cheated on me. Apparently, he said something by mistake. He was cheating on me for a while, that he cheated on me before, prior to that, that this person was a teacher that he knew of. She had red hair. And so I did something that I had never done in my life, and I spied on him. And I pulled out his briefcase and found a letter in her handwriting, and it was exactly how to screw me out of a divorce. And she said, "You will have lots of sex with me." That was how.
Could you imagine finding a letter? She doesn't go into detail about the letter, but I'm going to read you this letter, because this letter she actually put in the book, and it says, "Kane, to survive this, you'll have to trust me." Her advice was also included in the letter. Contact your attorney. Ask about custody and open adoptions. She can head you in the right direction. Transfer all unnecessary cash to an account with only your parents' name on it. Take her name off stocks, money, market, IRAs, 401k, etc. This includes benefits as well. Put all account information, bank, MMs, IRAs, etc., including any paperwork with your driver's license number and social security number on it, in a safety deposit bank, in the safe deposit box, a bank she's not at. Have lots of sex with me, smiley face, unless you are 125.5 sure, 125% sure. Have DNA tests done. She's literally telling Kane to get a paternity test. It's just, I can't believe it. You would be amazed if what I've seen in my line of work. Document everything. Make sure if you decide to keep the child that you claim this year as single, and to begin alternating years of claiming as a dependent, contact your lawyer with the stipulations you want with her, Desiree, hard and fast. This is advice that she's given to Kane, and we have gone over 1,000,000 times how deceitful, how malicious, how crazy Terri Horman is. I mean, to break it down like this, right down to a paternity test, is just mind-blowing in itself. But I did want to share with you guys with this entire letter, because I thought that it was just really important for everyone to know exactly what this letter says, because there was so much more content to it. So we're going to hop right back into, I'm trying to find, okay, we're going to hop right back into this. Hello, Chuck. Nice to see you. Hello, Kim. It's nice to see you too. Long time no see, Kim. And yeah, let's just hop right back into this interview.
How I realized that my life was not really what I thought. In January, after I had moved out, she was waiting around the corner with her stuff, and she moved in right away. The day that I figured out who she was, we get an invite in Quinn's backpack for a birthday party, and when I looked at it, I recognized the handwriting. I hadn't met Terri until Kyron was, I think it was 1, and I hear Quinn hop out of the car and say, "Hi, Terri." And that was when I realized she was walking up to us. That was the first time that I met her. I was careful. I didn't say a word to her. She offered her hand to me and I ignored her. So I was holding back a lot of anger over the years and all hurt that I had endured because I wanted to be a good person in front of my boys. We could stand next to each other at soccer events, track, cross country. We supported the boys. I have stood there and stuffed back all the feelings that I've ever had because it was important for my kids to learn from this that we were going to co-parent together, as painful as some of it was. You know, we went forward. Life happened. We were, I think, as successful as you can be in a co-parenting relationship. You know, we were always at sporting events all together. I drove for hours in the middle of the night to make sure that I was there for my boys. It was very challenging, but we made it work. I did have significant medical problems, and that was when I didn't have custody, although I had custody in the very beginning. But I can't control that, unfortunately. So that was where we were at, you know, in 2010. We were making it work. And Quinn was 15 when Kyron went missing.
Holy moly. We have a whisperer in the house. Thank you, Death by Chocolate. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for always being here. You've been one of our #1 supporters. So what are you guys thinking about this so far? I'm thinking some woman takes my man and I just want to kick the ever-living, you know what, right out of them. But you know what? We have learned over the years that Desiree Young happens to be one of the strongest women I think I have ever come across my entire life. What she goes through, what she does for her son, what she has put up with is just mind-blowing. Death by Chocolate. I finally figured it out. She sent me a message wanting to become a member a while back. Becky Boo, nice to see you, especially in such a conveying way. Exactly. She's moving her stuff out, and as she's pulling out of the driveway, here's Terri sitting with the truck, getting ready to move in. Her truck loaded with, by the way, the most ugliest couch ever. But she is getting ready to move in. Just pulling in the driveway. I'm here now. It's all about me. I don't know how she did it, you guys. I really don't. Yes, she is, Chuck. 100% strength and grace. It is so good to see everybody. All right. We're hopping right back into it. I'm still looking out for Kaylia. She'll be with us shortly.
Chapter 3. The Vanishing.
I was at home in Southern Oregon, actually going to work, but I did talk with Kyron. He was nervous, and I was just trying to reassure him. Kane told me he ended up not going to the science fair. He had a meeting, I guess. He had sent Terri with Kyron. Kyron normally rides the bus to school, but the presentation and the diorama was going to be exhibited to the entire school.
Okay.
So everybody's walking through the classrooms. And looking at all of the exhibits.
Okay.
7-year-old Kyron Horman disappeared from Skyline Elementary School.
He was wearing a black CSI t-shirt, black cargo pants.
Kyron was last seen by his stepmother, Terri Horman, who dropped him off at Skyline Elementary. No one has been charged in his disappearance.
That night when they interviewed us, they came to me and Tony in the house, and I believe that they were working through ruling us out. They had to alibi us, had to get our information, all of that. So by about 3 a.m, they came to us and asked us to go to the school. And I thought, oh, they must have cleared us, right? I remember it was one of the most difficult situations because I started to walk into the school and I saw all the exhibits in the hallway still. And I thought it was going to throw up and I couldn't walk. And thank God Tony was holding me up. It was one of the moments where I realized, oh my God, this is happening.
It's just so disheartening because I can feel that moment when she's walking into the school, Kyron's gone. This is her moment of, well, she also had a moment before that when she drives into town after she finds out Kyron's gone, and she looks over and the whole school's lit up and people are everywhere looking for Kyron, but then goes back to the school where he actually disappeared from, because law enforcement and her husband Tony, who is law enforcement, didn't allow her to go straight up to the school. So this is like she's going up to the school for the first time and it hits her. And I'm feeling the same way she is. My husband's gonna have to pick me up and hold me up. Unfortunately, I'm 3 times bigger than my husband, but yeah. The news, I remember this like it was yesterday in the news. And yeah, the CSI shirt, Halo. I mean, there are so many people that think she purposely put that shirt on Kyron. Can you believe the nerve if she did? I mean, all speculation right there. Probably surreal and living a nightmare. Exactly. Just a mother's worst nightmare, sinking feeling. Kim says it would be the most devastating feeling I think a mother could ever possibly have, besides the actual death of their child. And at this point, she doesn't even know if her son's dead or alive. All right, let's keep moving.
And then I looked up and I saw Ben Kiefer, the principal, coming toward us. I don't recall what Ben said to me. I just know that he came up to me and offered his hand, and there was a team of law enforcement there. And
can you guys believe that the principal of the school, Ben Kiefer, stayed at the school? This is 3 a.m. in the morning. He didn't leave the school, from what I understand, until almost noon the very next day. Just a FYI for everybody, like that principal felt so responsible. He felt so much grief. I have a teacher in our group that knows the family, knows the principal and his wife, and what he went through after Kyron disappeared is actually really sad, very sad.
And I remember not knowing who they were necessarily. They were clearly not people that I had already met at the house. But they had asked me to come into an office so that I could be interviewed. They separated me and Tony, of course, and a team went with Tony, a team went with me. I remember sitting across a round table from a couple of individuals. I believe one was with the FBI and I believe one was with Multnomah County. I remember just really struggling to try and think who in the world could possibly do this. You know, they asked me the usual questions. They had me go through everywhere I had been that day. You know, I said, you can have everything. Like, if you need to go through our house, if you need my computer, my phone, you can have everything. We were talking and they asked, do you know anybody who could do this to Kyron? Who would take Kyron? And I said, I honestly don't know. I offered up everything I could possibly think of. I actually thought of all the evil in the world first. And they asked, you know, if I knew where Kyron was. And I said, God, I wish I knew. I would give anything to go back in time and pull him out of that moment and protect him and be there. And I can't undo that. And I can't undo that. Undo that.
Just coming over this way before I continue to see if Kaylee is here. I'm sure he struggled immensely too. Very sad. It's usually not a stranger. That's actually more unusual. Yes, that is very true, Becky Boo. So usually it's a 96% chance that it's a family member, a person that knows the family. I mean, it's hardly ever, or even someone that knows the family, a family member, the parents. It's just crazy. And stranger abductions just don't happen very often. And when they do, usually the child doesn't live very long at all, actually. There have been quite a few cases to where the children were instantly found, but Desiree is married to law enforcement, so she knows all this. This is what's going through her head when her son is missing. And her husband, Tony, they're cleared. They're cleared. Their timeline's good. They know what they did that day. They're telling law enforcement everything that they know, everything that they did that day.
Chapter 4, Searching.
The second it's too quiet, the second that I feel like it's not working in our favor, we're not helping Kyron, there's nothing happening, then I'm going to do something to force the issue, right? And that's what I've done over the years. I'll do a search, and I have always been completely transparent whenever I've done a search. We have always turned over all evidence. I am very careful about the way I run searches, and I always have the proper technology, the people that are certified in Multnomah County doing the searching. I have dog teams that are brought in from all over the U.S. who are trustworthy and can do the job, and I know that the dog teams are reliable. I don't ever run it half-assed. I would never do that. I would never want to compromise Kyron's case. I have done a search every year with the exception of the last couple, and it's been...
Okay, Leah is here. Beautiful.
Hello, everyone.
It's good to have you. So you just seen kind of where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Desiree just mentioned that she's been doing a search every year, except for the last couple of years. And I needed to pause right here because I know I already talked about the Fury haters just a tiny bit, and I'm going to mention them again just a tiny bit. And it ain't for clout. It's because they're spreading misinformation, because they're going to take what Desiree says when she says, except for the past couple of years, because she has had car washes the past couple of years to raise money for a PI, private investigator, for Kyron's case, not for searches. And they want to talk about her using her money for extravagant things, her house, her needs, her cars, her this and that and whatever. And it's just absolutely sickening. Halo Art, thank you so much for becoming a whisperer. We've got quietness. That's what we call them. How loud do you want to get? Thank you so much, Halo, for becoming a member. We appreciate you so much. You're such an excellent mod. But yeah, I just wanted to touch bases with that. Even though she's raising money and she hasn't currently been doing searches, we do know searches are going on by Multnomah County, because in the beginning of the year of 2000, well, not the beginning, but in April and March of 2023, there were searches. There's things going on with Multnomah County. Mm-hmm. So she's kind of stepped back a little bit from the searches, but can you blame her after 14 years? Now she wants to spend her money getting a PI.
Yep.
Let's kind of try going a different route here.
Exactly. And, I have wondered, to myself personally, if I were in Desiree's shoes, would I go and tell everybody what my private investigator was doing? Heck no. Heck
No.
no, I wouldn't. That's the whole point of getting a private investigator. So, yeah, I love that you stopped and made that point. It's so true.
Yeah. I'm so glad to have you here. Do you know how long it's been since I've done a live without you?
I know, right? Yeah, it's been a while, and I'm glad I could make it. I know I was like, I think I think I could be there by 8, and I got right on at 8. It worked out perfect. I'm
That's
glad I made
awesome.
it. Better late than never.
How was your son's baseball game?
It was really fun to watch. It was beautiful here in Oregon City. Just every single baseball game, it's fun to watch these kids get better and better, and like really enjoy just cheering on their teammates and building that team camaraderie. I mean, my son is Kyron's age. He's in 2nd grade. So it's, it's really, really great to see. And I love being a mom. I love this age. I'm glad that,
awesome.
I'm glad that I get the opportunity to watch baseball games and things like that. It's just, I feel grateful tonight.
Right. Well, that's good. Desiree's got a message for Terri.
We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
Don't sleep, Terri. Here we go. Let's listen to more of this.
A long journey. I have, over the years, helped families of missing children. I've been a resource for parents when their child goes missing and in those first moments. The thing I'm most passionate about and connected to is working with the Department of Justice and the training facility, the national training facility for training law enforcement on CART teams, child abduction response teams. I speak to law enforcement about the family perspective, the best practices, the protocols we need to follow in cases like this. I feel like I make more of an impact when I can make that change in how we help the families, how we investigate these cases. How do we do it right? How do we improve on what we've done wrong? But I think that I have that impact and I can make change. I can hopefully be heard in a different way. I think it's really, really important to improve on everything that we do, or we're not going to ever bring our kids home.
That is
What an
powerful.
what an amazing woman. Really, she's won awards recently for the things that she is doing for missing children. She's been to Las Vegas recently a couple of times. She is truly advocating for other missing children besides her son. Just so strong. So strong. Let me just look at the comments here and see. Oh, and by the way, Doug Bishop, just want to throw this up real quick. Where's he at? Sorry, I didn't throw that up sooner. We're giving credit to Doug Bishop. This is who did the interview. You guys might recognize him. He was one of the partners in the, yep. What show is he from, Kalia? Adventures of Purpose.
Okay, I was gonna go there, but I wasn't 100% certain, so I didn't want to speculate.
He was one of the people from Adventures for Purpose, from what I understand. He's kind of disconnected from all of that right now. But yeah, credit goes out to Doug for having this interview with Desiree. Such an amazing interview. Hello, Sparkling Bubbles is here. We've got another new member. Oh my goodness, you guys are so amazing. Thank you, Kareen. She wants to be quiet. Just going to start asking people, how loud do you want to get? You can wait in the bushes and be quiet, or you can be a screamer and constantly be in the chat. It doesn't matter to us. We just appreciate everybody for being here. Zane Lily is here. Hello. Good to see you. It's amazing to have so many people here. We're just going to keep rolling because there's a lot to get to and a lot of really good content coming up.
Chapter 5, Shadows of Discord.
And from what I understand, their house was very divided at the time when Kyron went missing. Kyron was struggling. He didn't want to go back. He would cry and cry and cry and didn't want me to take him back. We realized that he was wetting the bed. I didn't know why that was. He couldn't articulate what the problem was to me, but there was problems, clearly. And it finally came to a head where I wasn't going to take him back. I couldn't do it. And I want to protect my child. There's clearly something going on. And I called Kane and I told him I wasn't bringing him home. And Kane said, yes, you are, that this is not an option. And I said, I'm taking custody back. He said, it's not an option. And he said, you will bring him home. And I said, I'm not telling him that anymore. This has been going for far too long. There's clearly something happening. And I gave the phone to Kyron, and I normally do not act that way, but I did not want to be that person.
Yeah.
So he had to be the bad guy and tell Kyron that he had to come home. And Terri was calling me sometimes in the middle of the night in that year. She wanted me to take Kyron. She asked me on several occasions. One day I was...
I just have to stop there and talk about that. She's calling Desiree in the middle of the night. Who does that? What is going on in a household where you're calling the mother of a child in the middle of the night? In the middle of the night.
Yeah. What is so desperately wrong that you would call, especially a mother who's hours and hours away? I mean,
right.
That is like pretty drastic. And Terri, she talks about this a little bit on Dr. Phil, because Desiree has mentioned before that Terri has asked Desiree to take Kyron. And when Dr. Phil asked Terri about that, she kind of deflects it and was like, well, yeah, I'd call her, but no, it was never like that. You know, she didn't take ownership over that being the case. But I mean, we read James's comments about what it was like living in that house, and it matches what Desiree is saying. Very divided, hostile, tense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just mind-blowing that, you know, it's just mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing. Because we've never heard that information before. We've never heard that Terry's calling in the middle of the night. You know?
Right.
And she's talking about all these problems that Kyron started to have the year prior to his disappearance. And there was so much going on that year. Terri was constantly wanting to know how Kyron was doing at school. Her and Kane would fight about Kane not wanting to punish Kyron for every little tiny little thing that he was doing wrong at school. He had to be perfect child, I guess. He wasn't allowed, you know, to just be a normal child. He was just constantly in trouble, to the point where Kane himself said that it was really disturbing, you know, and it was like going overboard. They're fighting, they're arguing, they're talking about divorce, like all of this kind of stuff is what's going on that year prior to Kyron's disappearance.
Running errands, and she called, and I could hear Kyron in the background crying. And I said, what's going on? She said, I want you to come and get him. Okay, I'm getting in the car. I'm coming. And I get in the car, and I'm calling Kane at the same time. Said, something's going on. I'm going to get Kyron. No, you're not. That's not an option. And I'll be honest, Kane probably didn't handle it the right way. Kyron was clearly having issues, and then he was ignoring all of it. Another thing that I was seeing in the year leading up to Kyron going missing, though I didn't know it at the time, Terri was manipulating the situation and telling Kane and I that Kyron was behaving poorly at school. I'm horrified because Kyron was almost grounded for Christmas, and I actually had my child sit down and write a letter to Santa apologizing for his bad behavior when he didn't have bad behavior. I know Terri. I know how evil she is.
Chapter 6.
You know, and this whole thing kind of goes right in with what Kane said in a news report when somebody was interviewing him, and he was just like, Terri was really working me and Desiree against each other. She was talking in emails with Desiree. She wasn't telling me what was being said and what was going on. He was in the dark. He's just like busting his ass working, trying to make ends meet at home and everything else. And Terri's starting to play this little manipulative game. I mean, and she's, you know, telling Desiree, come get him, come get him, come get him, over and over and over again, come get him. And to me, because we've actually talked about it before, was that because they were going to be getting a divorce and she needed Kyron to go home with Desiree so that she could just take Kiara, because her plans were just to take her because she knew she couldn't fight Kane. He was making $14,000 a month and she didn't have a job. And if she planned on fighting him, he would have just drug it out. In my opinion, that's how I feel things would have gone down. But yeah, she's definitely doing some really shady stuff that year.
Yeah.
Just looking at some comments here.
Truth unveiled.
Terri ended up taking Kane's truck that day. She needed it so that she could pick up the science fair exhibit after it was done. That's unusual. The science fair exhibits were supposed to remain up until Monday. She arrived around 8:15. Ms. Porter arrived around 8:25. So there was a period of time where Terri and Kyron were in the school without other parents, but there was administrative support staff already there, and that's how we know when she got there. Terri proceeded to take Kyron around to the classrooms. She went to 3 classrooms with Kyron.
I just wanted to pause right here because this is information that we didn't know, that Terri showed up to the school. She was one of the first parents to get there. The only employees of the school that saw her were just, you know, seeing her come in at 8:15. Miss Porter doesn't even get there until 8:25. Keelia, what do you got to say?
Yeah, that is, it's very interesting because, I mean, it is interesting for a school to even have an event so early in the morning. You know, a lot of parents have to work, and thinking that Terri got there early and she was, you know, one of the first few parents, it makes you wonder, excuse me, if, you know, I personally believe that Terri planned this out. And I wonder if not having any parents there or not having Miss Porter there until later kind of threw a wrench in the plan. You know what I mean? Like maybe the plan was to do XYZ with an accomplice at this time, but because Miss Porter wasn't there until 8:25 and Terri had to wait, did that impact anything and make things harder for her? You know, I just think about it like that because, I mean, it was deliberate why she showed up there at that time, in my opinion.
Because there's a lot of people that just can't believe that she was in there with hardly any parents. Everybody is just expecting, since the science fair was from 8 to 10, that the entire school is just going to be automatically just full of people. Well, not all parents go to these kinds of events. Buses weren't even arriving till close to 8:30. So I mean, yeah, it was quiet, and yeah, maybe Leah, maybe, you know, she got there expecting it to be just so much more than it was, and was going to get an early jump on everything, and couldn't do it. But the other thing that blows my mind here is that Terri and Kyron are only seen going to 3 rooms to see science fair projects. That is huge to me.
Right.
Because she talks about how they went wandering around the school, going and seeing all the different science fair projects and everything else. She makes it sound like they did this huge, tour of the. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. Three classrooms in a school full of 20 classrooms.
Yeah.
3. And that's not even including the gym, including the lunch area that all had, yeah, it's crazy. Oh, yes, Terri planned this out, Sparkling Bubble says. She thought she had all her bases covered. Unfortunately, it was worked out for the devil, sadly. Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
We know that she walked up through the East End stairwell. The story that Terri tells coming up that stairwell is that she walked him up to the main hallway, didn't walk him all the way to Miss Porter's class at the very end of that hallway, that she waved to him from the top of those stairs. It's significant because if she was standing at the top of those stairs, there's no way she would even be able to see Kyron. She would see a wall. Yeah. The other caveat is the picture. So the real timeline that we know, absolutely witnessed by everybody on GPS with the camera, is that she came up that stairwell, walked Kyron all the way to Miss Porter's classroom, took pictures of him and his 2 friends in front of the diorama, time-stamped, 8:45.
Time-stamped, 8:45. This is huge, you guys, because it has been said over and over and over again, especially in early news broadcasts and everything else, that picture was taken at 8:15 in the morning. It was like one of the first things she did. This is confirming that she didn't go up the stairwell and watch Kyron go to his classroom, and the last thing she sees is the back of his head. What actually happens is they go up the stairwell, if they even did it that way, because you can't believe a damn word she says, but goes to Miss Porter's class to take the picture. She's seen by everybody and everything at 8:45 taking this picture, and she's saying camera, GPS, time-stamped. There's no arguing with it. No matter what anybody says, this is the facts.
Yeah, timestamp data does not lie. That is 100. When I read that in the book, that she actually took the time at 8:45, and Desiree has mentioned this a couple times over the years, that this photo is timestamped. I don't know why anybody would ever question that. People's memories are horrible. You know what's accurate 100% of the time? Timestamp data. So they know for sure, certain she stood and took those pictures of Kyron and those other classmates at 8:45. Who knows if the bell had rang already, or if it was right about to, or if that was a signal to her at some point. Oh, who knows? But those pictures, 8:45, and that's just crazy. Like you said, just debunks what she says.
Yes, and there's teachers there watching this picture being taken. There's parents there watching their children get pictures with Kyron. Kyron's friend gets a picture taken, and then she's running around town showing everybody this picture of Kyron. And so many people call it her proof of life, her alibi. What does she need that day when she goes out running around? She needs that picture of Kyron. Why? Because she's showing it to everybody all day long. You want to know why? Because when she's showing this picture of Kyron to all these people are going to remember when he goes missing. Oh, I saw her here. Alibi. She showed me the picture of Kyron, and she did it throughout the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
The entire
several
day.
people who were just casual acquaintances with Terri said, even one has came forward publicly and said that was a very peculiar, because not only was the baby supposedly sick, according to Terri, that's what Terri was saying, I'm here for my sick daughter, but then she's whipping out her phone or her camera. I personally believe she somehow transferred it to a phone. I think she's not carrying a digital camera and turning it on and then going to the play button and then, I don't think that's what's happening. I think she has a phone that has this picture on it by this point, and she's showing it to people.
Yeah, and either way, it completely backfires on her.
Yeah.
Completely 100%. Why? Because some of the people that she's talking to and she's showing this picture to aren't people that she usually even talks to, has conversations with. She made things very awkward for these people when having these conversations. So even though people remembered seeing the picture, they also remembered how awkward it was. How awkward it was.
Just while you bring that point up, it's so true. I mean, it not only in just this instance about this picture, but there are so many reports about Terri acting strangely this day. She asked somebody to lie about the doctor's appointment for her. A casual friend that was there showing support, and not, that's in the book there, and there's many other people that have just said that in general, and it's so true. She was acting so strange that day.
Bigfoot Barbecue is reminding me, because he's letting us know that he can't wait to meet us on June 1st. We can't wait to meet you either. Well, this is my brother-in-law. I know him, but he'll be meeting Kaylia. He is reminding me, though, June 1st, 10 a.m. in the morning, we are getting together at Skyline Elementary School. We're passing flyers around in the area. And after you're done passing out those flyers, we are asking people to go over to Walker Road, Les Schwab, and have your vehicle washed by Desiree and all of her volunteers. They're doing their annual car wash for Kyron. He's been missing for 14 years. We're passing out flyers. Desiree is trying to earn some more money for her PI, and we're trying to bring as much awareness as we possibly can for the 14th anniversary of Kyron's disappearance, because this information, his face, needs to be seen out there more and more and more and more, and we're going to make it happen.
That's right. I asked somebody today when I was getting Dutch Brothers if they knew who Kyron Horman was, and she said no. And mind you, I will admit she was a little younger, so I'll give her that, but it was an opportunity. And when I told her about his story, she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, I'm totally into podcasts and stuff like that. I'm going to look into this. And we think people like Samantha and I and these other comments I've read, I've followed Kyron's case from the beginning. Amen. So have so many of us, but there are also a huge amount of people that have never heard of Kyron and his story. Yep. And that's exactly why it's still so important.
And new people in the area where he came up missing, but we're looking for tips. We're looking, for those tips to come in. That's what we need more than anything. Like Chris Madonna said today on Josh's live, the public solves these crimes more than law enforcement. These type of crimes are usually because some tip comes in from the public. If you know anything, if you've got a tip, 503-988-0560. I'll put the banner up in a little while. Let's get back to the video. Hello, AV. Nice to see you, girlfriend.
Right before she walks out the side doors with Kyron. That also is witnessed by Kyron's bus driver. She happened to be sitting in her bus and saw Terri and Kyron come out of the school with Kiara. And his other friend and grandma and sister are outside the school and see Kyron leaving with Terri. So we know that Terri went from the school, and we know that she went to 2 Fred Meyers. She claims that she was there to buy cold medicine for Kiara, supposedly. Well, that's the funny thing is Kiara was not sick at the time that Kyron went missing. She was sick a couple weeks earlier. She had actually taken antibiotics, and by that point was fine. She claimed that the first Fred Meyer didn't have it and that she went to the second Fred Meyer. So she's seen pulling into the second Fred Meyer, pulling into the parking lot. She's on video surveillance. Kyron is nowhere to be seen in the video surveillance, although Kyron is the type of child, if you told him to stay in the car, he would absolutely listen to you.
I just have to throw something up real quick because that's why. So these meds and doctors, Terri Horman actually says in a Facebook post that she went to, somebody actually witnessed Terri at the doctor's office. They say that Terri was there trying to talk the doctor into giving her something to calm Kyron down. This is the day before, you guys. The day before Kyron goes missing. And then Terri, of course, rebuttals to this, says it isn't true, and actually says that she was at this doctor's appointment because the baby's ears were still hurting and she couldn't give her any more amoxicillin antibiotics because if she did, it would upset the baby's stomach. So the doctor just told her to go ahead and find some Motrin or some Tylenol, pain medicine or something. But she's saying all of this on her public posts. And it's not even true. It's not even true. Desiree is sitting right here, which I'm pretty sure she gets her information from Kane when Kane's like, what is she talking about? When she's telling law enforcement what she's been doing. And Kane's like, no, she hasn't been sick. And to top it all off, she had to go around telling everybody that there was a shortage on medication and everything else. I will add all of this. This is just the messages because you guys know I like to bring my receipts. This is, come on now. Stop. She's talking about debunking this, blah, 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 because we don't want to hear from her. My daughter had recently finished her amoxicillin. I was still showing she was still showing some SX, and I knew giving her more would upset her stomach, so I asked what he would like to do, and he said, continue with Tylenol, keep me posted. And then I actually wanted to show you guys this. The FDA said that there were no shortages for kids' medicines seen. Why? Because there was plenty of other alternative products available. It was only the Tylenol brand made by Johnson & Johnson. You still had Kroger and 100 different other, off brands to buy from. So no, I have to call BS on that one. And let's just continue. Yeah.
I commented this, but I'll say it too. That news source that you got that news article from saying there was no shortage.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the most reputable news sources in the country.
Oh yeah.
It's one
That's
of
what I had to find to shut up Terri supporters because nobody was listening to me. Even though there's a shortage doesn't mean there isn't any. There can be a shortage on stuff.
I mean, just because there's a recall, exactly, doesn't mean that, they didn't anticipate there to be a shortage. And they said that's because there were tons of generic brands and store brands available. She could have gone and gotten Kroger brand, no problem. Yep. That doctor's appointment thing, I have my own interesting speculations about that whole June 3rd doctor's appointment because, I mean, couldn't you call your doctor? and say that, hey, my baby still has symptoms, but I don't want to give her amoxicillin. And he says, go get some Tylenol. Like, I don't know.
Let's talk about the smoking gun here too. Like, hello, she's there saying she needs medicine to calm Kyron down the day before he goes missing.
Yeah.
What was she going to do with that? What was she going to do with that medicine? You know, Desiree has said before on prior interviews that she believes, and she also says it in the book, she believes that Terri gave him something and medicated him with something. That's what she thinks. So, yeah, at the store, I just like come in with receipts sometimes when I talk about things, but let's continue with the video.
From that moment, Terri is missing, although seen by witnesses in various side roads off of the Skyline area.
Okay, you guys know me. Got to go over witnesses where she was seen. Fred Hall seen her on Skyline up on Dixie Mountain. A man driving down on Highway 30 saw her pulling off of Rocky Point onto Highway 30. A woman saw her parked off at the side of the road on Newberry Road, which is the halfway point between where Dede Spicher was working and Skyline School.
She's seen pulled over on the side of the road. Her phone is out of signal for a significant period of time.
And this is mind-blowing here too. Her phone is out of signal. When she leaves the second Fred Meyer, she turned her phone off.
Yep.
She turned her phone off. We didn't know this.
Yeah.
I get excited over the little things, you guys. You're going to just have to bear with me. I'm going to have to keep pausing because this is like mind-blowing because if she, oh, I can't continue because Desiree hasn't said it yet.
Well, excuse me. While you're talking about that, it's a good point. Because I'm pretty sure she had Verizon. And even in 2010, Verizon had the best service out there. So that was deliberate.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you.
Her phone pings at 11 a.m. driving down Highway 30. She's seen checking Kiara in there at the gym. She was seen walking around, talking to people she did not know significantly, but showing them the photo of Kyron. She had injured her leg, and the person noted that Terri indicated it was because she dropped a weight on her leg, down her shin, but the person said it was not that kind of injury. It was like she scraped it on something uneven and jagged.
This is the first time Desiree Young has ever talked about this gash on Terri Horman's leg and the witness that saw it, besides where it's written in the book. And it's actually a jagged mark on her leg. I go to the gym. I lift weights. First of all, when you're at the gym makes it to where if anything like that were to fall on you, it's not going to hurt you really bad as far as a weight. Like it might bruise you. It's not going to put a gash in your leg.
There's no sharp objects on a weight. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes on like the ends or whatever. But like I said, at the gym, they keep their weights a certain way just to keep accidents from happening. I mean, if you're a dork and you're using this stuff and you want to do like, I don't know, your chest pressing or something, and you got too much weight and your arms give out, maybe the bar will come down on your chest and hurt you or something. But your hand weights or weights that you're using with your hands that are going to actually, you could drop and fall on you, aren't going to be sharp enough, I guess is my point.
I mean,
to like something jagged on you.
Exactly. If someone says it was from something jagged, that's way different. I mean, go type it in on Google. I'm sure even just typing in dropped weight wound, jagged edge wound, and you're going to get two different looking wounds. I guarantee it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of thinking in my head, a jagged cut on the leg, probably a little bit of skin hanging there loose, maybe a little bit of blood, maybe even a little bit deep. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And it was odd because she did not work out. out, not once.
How long was she at the gym?
A total of about 15 to 18 minutes.
What?
Yeah. She didn't work out. She has several interviews.
She did not work out. We thought that she was at the gym for 20 minutes. She's there almost 20 minutes, but 15 to 18 minutes. You can't do a workout. Now, I've told many people, you know what, 20, 25-minute workout. I've been in and out of the gym before. You can totally do it. But now hearing this, 15 to 18, yeah. What was she doing? Alibi.
Yep. It's all alibi planting. That's it.
Yep.
Meeting place.
And she says that she got to the gym at 11:39, but she's seen on footage and checking into the gym per their computer that you check in with or whatever at 12:20. So she's turned her phone off, and then she's down on Highway 30 at 11 o'clock. She's at that second Fred Meyer's and in that area till almost 10 minutes after 10. And then she's pinging on Highway 30 when she turns her phone back on. Just remember that because it's going to come into play in a little bit.
In the first several days, right?
Okay.
And so the first timeline she's giving doesn't have that in there.
Okay.
So they're wondering, where is she between, these times? So at first, the timeline is very sparse because she hasn't thought it through. She hasn't figured out where she was. She can't account for that time.
Okay.
So she's having to manufacture stuff. So initially, the timeline she gives them doesn't have any of that in there.
Okay.
And then they're coming back to her with evidence. We have an eyewitness that put you here. We have your phone ping here. Like, where were you? And then she's trying to fill that in, right?
Okay.
And so she comes back with several different things. She claims she was at Michael's. Well, they know that her phone pinged at 11 on Highway 30. You couldn't have been at Michael's. Not only that, but there's no video surveillance of you at Michael's. Not only that, but the staff there claims to never have seen you at Michael's. And then she changes her version again. And I believe it was Monday. I'm in the house and she was on her computer and I asked her what she was doing. And she's like, she was defensive and didn't want me looking at her computer. And she's like, you just need to mind your own business. And I said, okay. I just was asking what you were doing. Well, they're trying to get my timeline of where I was. Okay. So she was typing up her timeline.
Typing up her timeline. What? I mean, I've already heard so many things. I don't know why I'm so shocked. We know that she's lied about where she was and what she was doing. And just to give you guys a good idea, the Michaels was way over on off of Highway 26, and she's pinging off of Highway 30, which is almost like, I want to say 7 to 10 miles. Don't quote me on that, but it's a ways. At least a 10-minute drive or more. So that's why law enforcement is already like, you couldn't have been there. And yeah, she's writing up a timeline on Monday. This is the day that she goes in to take her polygraph, her very first polygraph. And she's sitting there writing out her timeline. And what it reminds me of is when we talked to Lori, which was a friend of Mr. Cristobal, Joseph Cristobal down in California, one of Terri's boyfriends. It just reminds me because she tells us that she knew she was going on to the Dr. Phil show. Dr. Phil she told Dr. Phil, like, you need to tell me what questions you're going to ask me before I go on. And he's like, okay. He gives her a bunch of questions. Lori tells us she's rehearsing these questions, going over them over and over again. Joseph is watching her change her voice, walking in the house. She's doing the dishes. She's getting in the bathtub. She's taking these questions with her everywhere to get her story straight is what she's doing. And now she's writing out her timeline. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And back in one of the very first interviews that Desiree and Kane gave together without Terri when the split happened, the interviewers asked Desiree and Kane, can you tell us about Terry's timeline? And they straight up said, no, we can't talk about the timeline. And then like the interviewer, I think, asked like a follow-up question like, okay, well, we just heard she went to some stores. And Desiree says, I didn't even know she went to stores or something like that. Like they obviously couldn't divulge, but it shows back then how confused everybody was. Terry's story was changing multiple times a day. And and then to follow up, you know, great point about her practicing her Dr. Phil questions. I totally could see that as being truthful. And according to our friend Lori, who is friends with Terry's ex here that we're talking about, he told Lori that he didn't even know Terri was Kyron's stepmom. She didn't even tell him that. It just started kind of unraveling to the point where she was going on Dr. Phil, and she had to explain why. But he had no idea up until that point, and they were dating for several months.
And then she goes on the Dr. Phil, and Dr. Phil saw right through her BS because he changed all of the questions. And you want to know what Terri did? She pissed herself. She literally pisses herself. No joke. It's not a lie. She peed herself on Dr. Phil because that's how nervous and frustrated or whatever she was, because she had practiced all these questions and he switched them up.
That's why she looks so nervous. She looks so nervous. She contradicts herself in that interview. She doesn't make sense. If you listen and you picture what she's saying, like when she explains the last time she saw Kyron, Dr. Phil did this on purpose. He says, where were you and where was Kyron? And the way she describes it, you're like, oh, hell no. There's just no way. You're telling me that is what happened. There's just no way that that's a truthful story at all.
Right. All right. Let's get back to the video.
I can tell you to this day, 13 years later, every single place I went to that day, and I know because that was the day the world came out from under me. I know what I ate for goddamn lunch. I can tell you everything I did that day, and she can't figure out where she was or what she did. It took me a while before I offered Terri up. It was awkward. You know, the more time that went on, the more my feelings couldn't be concealed. It was really uncomfortable to be there with her and watch her behavior, where she wasn't sad, she wasn't doing all of that stuff. She was going out of her way to lead a normal life, so to speak. She was getting her hair done. She was going to the gym. She was doing all this stuff, and I could barely function. I didn't want to live after Kyron. It was really hard. And I think it got to the point where it was so glaring that we all looked at each other, we all being Kane, Tony, and I. There's just no other person, right? Well, I'll tell you that our law enforcement team was very good not to focus too early on her.
Okay.
It was because of Terri alone, her actions, her lies, everything that we could prove, all the physical evidence, all the circumstantial evidence. It was because of all of that that they really started focusing on her. Mm-hmm. It wasn't any other reason. I will say that they have gone out of their way to exhaust every other angle and suspect out there. They have ruled out every parent that was in the school that day, every registered sex offender in the area, every house that neighbors up to the school. They have ruled out every single possible other person except one.
It's just something that we just talked about on one of our last lives, because I wanted to give law enforcement a big high five at the amazing job that they did not focusing on just Terri. A year later, they still had 60 people that on their list of people to look at a year later. So they weren't honed in on Terri immediately. Of course, they had their suspicions, but you can't just sit there and rest your suspicions on one person when a child's missing. So they did their job. And I'm so glad that she talked about this, because Detective Tabor, this is one of the things that really bothers him, when he thinks that the public or that people think that they didn't try doing everything to rule Terri out, but it just kept coming right back to her. All evidence kept coming right back to her. When you're lying, when you're changing stories, when you're doing all of these multiple conniving things, it's going to catch up with you. It's just going to catch up with you. I'm surprised that she, I really think she thought she was just going to get away with it, but things just don't go that way. And she's, I don't know why she's still out there. Oh, it's so,
Yeah.
it just bothers me so much.
I should say, too, Terry's friend, Dede Spicher. You don't get Dede without Terri.
Here we go.
They've had a personal relationship physically.
Oh.
As far as I'm aware, Dede was 2 miles from the school on Germantown Road, working at a property where she was landscaping for them. She was also missing during the same period of time that Terri was. The people on the property always have lunch together in their central location, and they were trying to locate her, and she was missing.
Now, Dede Spicher will try to convince you that they were going to be having lunch for the very first time that day. For the very first time. And this is the first time I've ever seen her. I mean, she's talked about Dede here and there, but she really goes off on Dede.
Okay.
And they tried calling her, and she didn't answer. Her phone was on the property. Her car was on the property, but Dede was nowhere to be found, and they looked everywhere. It's our understanding, through information I've had turned over to me during searches, that she was picked up by Terri from her.
What?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What? Y'all
Something
know.
we've speculated about 1,000 million trillion times on this channel.
Yeah, how they met up, how whatever. This is mind-blowing to me that she straight up is saying that they believe that Terri picked her up. While me and Kaylia were out there off of West Wind Farms, that's the property where Dede was working, I showed Kaylia 2 different places at the outskirts of the property where somebody could pull up, and you just barely have to walk in the off the property to get in a vehicle, and you wouldn't be seen, because on both ends of that property isn't anything but road and trees for blocks.
Exactly.
So hundreds of yards at least.
And it's not a busy road either. So you have 3 things working in their favor. No one is going to see them.
And we also know that Desiree has mentioned that these 2 women were seen on Old Germantown Road, which is where West Wind Farms is, passing things from one truck to another. That implicates to me that a third person was involved. If Terri picks her up there, where did the other truck come from?
Yeah.
Did they later go get the truck? Did she pick her up and then drive her to a vehicle? Oh, don't even know how much information is being given right now saying Terri picked her up. So get this. Terri leaves the second Fred Meyers. She turns her phone off. Guess what's near the second Fred Meyers? Where Dede Spicher works. Dede Spicher is near. She turns her phone off. She gets Dede. She's seen on Newberry Road, which is the halfway mark between the school and West Wind Farms. Newberry Road goes down to Highway 30. I'm just kind of speculating here, but what did they do if that's when they go to Newberry Road? Because that would be in the direction to get down to Highway 30, because her phone pings down there at 11 and she's leaving this Fred Meyer's a little 10 after 10. So there's 50 minutes here, people. 50. And ask Kaylee, in 50 minutes you can get far out there. She could have went, picked up Dede, went off of Newberry Road. She was seen parked off of Newberry Road. What was going on? And then follows Newberry Road down to Highway 30. Ping. Something happened in that short period of time, that 50 minutes. Something huge happened. Something huge.
Yeah.
Her job on that property. She was also missing during the same period of time that Terri was. The people on the property always have lunch together in their central location, and they were trying to locate her, and she was missing.
Okay.
And they tried calling her, and she didn't answer. Her phone was on the property. Her car was on the property, but Dede was nowhere to be found, and they looked everywhere. It's our understanding through information I've had turned over to me during searches that she was picked up by Terri
Bombshell.
from her job on that property. In the DA's office, they believed at the time that they could get her to flip on Terri. Several weeks later, they made an agreement with Dede Spicher for immunity. Here's the problem with that. As you're investigating, you're getting evidence, you're obtaining new information, new interviews, all the things, right? And now, today, what we can say is there's physical evidence that is involving her. From what I understand, Dede Spicher said Terri was using throwaway phones and had loaded it with minutes and was using that to communicate with people. They were able to acquire the phones. Dede took them where they dumped them. I don't know when the phones were dumped. They got access to them a couple of weeks after Kyron went missing.
Oh my God, there's so much there. Whoa, so much there. Did you hear what they just said? Remember, Kaylee, when I was asking you about the immunity, when they say a few weeks later.
Yeah.
So did they give immunity to Dede? A few weeks later would be probably right after the time she leaves Terry's house when they really start drilling her. So on the 28th, she lawyers up. I believe it was around the 26th to 28th or so. Kane gets the baby and leaves. Dede moves in for 11 days with Terri. When she leaves there, she's grilled hardcore. Okay, you guys? Hardcore. I think that's when she got her immunity, Kalia. I think that's when she got it. And then,
Well, yeah, I definitely, yeah, I could see that. You know, the whole Dede thing, like you mentioned, we've never heard Desiree been this direct at Dede. She's never said anything like this. And you know what? That means she needs us to not let people forget. We need Dede to help. If Dede has immunity and knows something, why is she still protecting Terri? Why?
Yeah.
What good is that going to do her? Unless Terri and her are still friends, which they have both denied apparently. But I mean, we as Kyron's community can't let people forget that if Desiree is out here saying that Dede has immunity and would get off completely scot-free if she helped them solve this case. Just come on, just help bring Kyron home to his family. It's been 14 painful years. I cannot even believe that she has immunity and has not done anything to help this case. I mean, she gave them the location of the burner phones, but since 2013, she's been, see you later. I got my immunity.
Oh my God. And then the burner phones. I'm obsessed with searches and I'm obsessed with Dede. That's why you guys are hearing me just freaking out, because I have been so excited to talk about this new information. Dede Spicher took law enforcement to where the burner phones were, okay? Law enforcement had them in their custody and access to the information 2 weeks after Kyron went missing. Do you guys want to know why this information is so important? Let me just show you. This right here is Desiree Young talking about Dede and Terri having cell phones or burner phones the day that Kyron came up missing. Okay? The day.
And she's calling them throwaway phones here too, meaning that that's probably exactly what the wording that Dede and Terri used them as. They didn't call them burner phones. They were calling them throwaway phones, and Desiree called them that twice with quotes. That stands out to me.
Yes. And I'm going to play this video because I want you guys to hear about it, because there are more throwaway phones bought, more burner phones bought later on. Check this out.
K2 News has learned the role prepaid cell phones are playing in the case. Multiple sources tell K2 News in the days after Kyron Horman moved out, Terri and 2 friends stayed in communication using such phones. At least one of them was purchased by Dede Spicher, another by a second friend from an electronics store inside the Lloyd Center Mall. The friend admits to me she used a fake name to buy the phone. She says they were simply trying to have some privacy as they tried to help Terri find an attorney and felt their conversations were being monitored. As a practical matter, she says they also needed phones with AT&T coverage since their Verizon phones didn't have service at the Horman home, where they were all spending considerable amounts of time. What remains unclear is why 2 additional prepaid phones were purchased at another store in downtown Portland the next day, under the same fake name the friend used to buy hers at Lloyd Center. She tells me she knows those phones were paid for in cash, but she did not purchase them.
So you have more burner phones being bought around the time that Dede goes and stays with Terri for 11 days. She admits to buying one. Another woman comes forward and said she bought the other. But the next day, 2 more burner phones were bought with the same fake name, and Dede and Terri both deny buying those phones. I'm going to have to call BS on that. But what is huge here is that there are multiple. And if Dede has came forward and said, I bought one of those phones, law enforcement knows about the phones, probably had the phones. So much information on the phones. So much information on those phones, you guys. 2 weeks after Kyron comes up missing, and I am not 100% about this immunity thing, but literally the way that that sounded to me was that a few weeks later, they gave Dede immunity. You guys can watch it for yourself, rewind it if you want. I've listened to it over and over again. I feel like Dede got immunity early, and like Desiree explains, and then more and more evidence starts coming in, right? And then they're able to tie physical evidence to Dede, and guess what? She's got immunity, and they can't do anything to her now. Now that new evidence surfaced, pointing fingers at her. It's insane.
Insane. Do the right thing, Dede.
Can somebody explain to me what communication about the photos? I don't understand that.
I'm
like, I don't know.
Well, if I'm thinking in the era of 2010, I've never had a throwaway phone. Actually, you know what? When I was probably in middle school or high school, I think I did buy myself one because I didn't have a cell phone yet. So I'm like, I'm going to use my allowance to buy myself a prepaid phone. And I do remember having a totally normal phone for that. So that to me makes me think that they could have had a regular phone that had emails. Maybe they were emailing pictures to each other on these burner phones, and the emails were only accessible on those phones. You know, that's the only way they discovered them. Or, I mean, what other ways? I don't know either. That's kind of one of the only ways I could think of that.
Yeah, let's listen to that just one more time. Let's see.
Photos that were stored on the phone. That is
Samantha?
Yes.
Are you getting your screen loaded, or are we supposed to be seeing your screen? Because we can't see anything.
Uh-oh. Why can't you see anything?
I don't know. I mean, maybe, yeah, it's just you and me on the screen.
Okay, let me go back here. Maybe it kicked us off.
Sorry, I was distracted.
Nope, you're good.
I was distracted. My hubby was bringing me drinks and food, and so I wasn't looking. And then I'm like, wait, we're supposed to be watching something.
Yes, because I forgot to add it to the stage. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Because I'm sitting here listening to it all by my damn self. Let me get where I need to be. Let me just let you guys listen to this again.
Said Terri was using throwaway phones and had loaded it with minutes and was using that to communicate with people. They were able to acquire the phones. Dede took them where they dumped them. I don't know when
And guilty people don't dump phones. Let's just FYI that, right? If you're not guilty for doing anything, why are you tossing phones places? Why not have the same burner phones at the end of the month that you had prior to that?
Yeah, exactly.
Make it make sense. That's crazy.
phones were dumped. They got access to them a couple of weeks after Kyron went missing. There's communication connected to photos that were stored on the phone that is the physical evidence in the case. It's all things that imply guilt. It's all things showing conceal and lie and deceit. All of it is circumstantial, which is unfortunate. And then she proceeds to plead the fifth. She doesn't want people to know what she is. And now that she has an immunity deal, we can never prosecute her. We can't ever fix that.
It's just so heart-wrenching that they can't do anything. And I've said it over and over and over and over again that I think Dede Spicher is a monster. Yep, she does not want people to see her for the monster she truly is.
She has kept an insanely low profile for 14 years. So bizarre. I mean, who does that in a missing child's case? It just is so... I know everybody says, you don't know how you'd act, but I mean, hello, Dede Spicher wasn't even like anybody to Kyron. It's not like she's going through this massive grieving process or anything. Why is she acting this way?
And she's got this immunity deal, and then the grand jury is probably telling her, like you said, Kalia, probably telling her, like, you're going to lose your immunity deal if you don't come to the grand jury and talk. Yeah. And when she gets there, all she does is plead the fifth the entire time. And I told Kalia a while back ago, and I've said it on my lives, they thought they were going to get a bunch of information from her, and she didn't give them nothing. And all she did was sit there, plead the fifth, plead the fifth, plead the fifth, to simple questions like, did you know who Kyron was? Did you know Terri? Where did you meet Terri? Blah, blah, blah. Just didn't want to answer nothing.
Makes you just
what?
makes me just shake my head even more when you think about the interview that she gave that blogger.
Oh yeah.
Because again, I just think she's like, oh my gosh, we were celebrating when they cleared me. And I'm thinking, they were giving you immunity because they thought you were an accomplice to a horrific crime. They didn't know to what level yet, but yeah, they weren't over here cheering for you. It's just bizarre that she went and told somebody the things she said in her interview, now knowing that what we know that Desiree just said about her,
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I'm mind blown because she has pretty much confirmed anything and everything I've ever said or thought about Dede. She just confirmed it. All of it. Right down to her even saying they searched the property for Dede and Dede wasn't found. They didn't. And the other thing was is that they had lunch all the time, and Dede tried making it sound like that was going to be the first day they ever had lunch. Sorry, you guys. It just blows. The whole Dede thing is just crazy to me.
Missed clues.
And I think that it was the one moment at that first press conference, Terri was looking at the cameras and realizing that Kyron was not going to be taken without a huge aftermath. She thought it would be a blip on the screen and everybody go about their merry lives and forget what had just happened. She did not gamble on the fact that Kyron would be huge and that everybody would love Kyron and that it would be the biggest case in Oregon's history. She did not bet on that. I was really having a moment of, I cannot believe that they haven't arrested her. Like, she is faking she did this. And I remember saying to my husband, you better get her away from me. And Mary Lynn Strand looked at me and knew in that moment that she needed to take Terri out of there. She didn't like that because she never could con me into thinking that fake Terri was the real thing. And she hated that aspect about me, is that
I love that Desiree saw right through Terri. Love it. And it just explains, just like she's saying here, it explains so much why Terri acts like she hates Desiree so much, because Desiree is one of those people that saw right through her bullcrap.
Exactly.
Right through it from the beginning.
Well, mother instincts are powerful, and I honestly don't think Terri could hide it as well as people think she could. I do believe she was charming, but we've also heard that she also, like we've said, she manufactured a lot of punishment and was really hard on Kyron. That doesn't sound like a warm and fuzzy person to me, so I feel like the people that were close to her saw more of the true side, and she was just really charming to everybody else.
Yeah,
tried to be, I should say.
Can you imagine being at that press conference, knowing that you are pretty sure that the person standing next to you, the person that's hanging on you, got your arm around you and everything, is probably the person responsible for your son's disappearance? Mary Lindstred was the FBI agent that came in when Kyron disappeared. I can so totally picture this all happening because I'm not a very physical person anyway. I don't like people hugging on me, touching me, and all that kind of stuff all the time anyway. So me being stressed out and having somebody hang on me would already stress me out even more. But I don't know how she kept her hands to herself. I don't know how she kept her hands to herself because,
you can feel the unease on Desiree's body. You can feel that. I mean, everybody knows. Everyone who's ever watched that press conference can see it with their own eyes. No one has to even explain a thing. We all can feel that feeling of, wow, there's something up here.
Right. Exactly.
I was real and I knew what the score was. And she did not like that. And when she was being let out the back, I think all of that was coming to a head. If there was ever any impact it had, you could see it. And they sent an investigator to take her to go get interviewed, and it shut her down. It was the wrong investigator. And I talk about that with law enforcement because it's huge. When you have somebody who's building a rapport with someone and they could potentially get answers, it is so important to send the right person in there at that moment. That was the one moment, and we lost it at that moment. That was it. It was done. We would never recover from that moment.
I'm just going to pause a little bit because I can't see what's going on in chat just to talk to everybody. Sparkling bubbles. The way Terri looked up at Desiree was so telling. Guilt, and Terri wanted to see if everybody was buying what she was trying to sell. And nobody bought that crap. Everybody speculated about how they thought Terri was responsible for Kyron's disappearance right after that press conference. Everybody's opinion changed. Everybody was wondering what was going on in that family because, I mean, there are like certain places you can see her looking out at the cameras. Like, I don't know what she thought. Kyron's face and smile and his ears and his glasses and everything about him was the most and is the most beautiful child ever. And she really thought she could do something to him and everybody was going to forget about it. Really?
To me, that just shows the state of mind she was in, because she must have had a really hard, like, she must not have had pleasant feelings about Kyron to be able to do something like this to him, obviously. And those feelings tricked her into thinking that he wasn't important to other people too. She was so wrong about that.
Yeah. Sabina is like, I'd lose my cool. I would do more than lose my cool. I would knock her the brig out.
And yeah, same. I'm not somebody that gets angry easily, but if I were in Desiree's shoes or Kane's, like, can you imagine being the biological parent and just being like, I trusted you. Like, what in the hell? That is so sickening. You're exactly right.
It is. Everything about everything that she's doing, that Dede's doing, everything is just so sickening. Let's see, 2103 says Dede knew where the phone were, dumped them. She knows where Kyron is. Exactly. If you know where you dumped the phones, you guys know. If you heard him, you know where he is. And if you didn't hurt him, you still know where he is. So it's time to talk, Dede. Time to talk.
You know, she could write an anonymous letter. And I know people have said that. Terri, write an anonymous letter. But if it came from Dede, Dede really has nothing to lose here. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing at all. And like, can you imagine the weight on your conscience for the, I mean, goodness gracious, just do the right thing.
And Dede, or Desiree, brings up the fact that there was a physical relationship going on between them. That must have been on their real phones or the burner phones or something. They have proof of this because Desiree has constantly, and so has Stacey Green, mentioned this personal physical relationship that the two of them had. Are they communicating to this day? Are they friends? Are they going to take this to their grave? And Dede, why would you do that when there's no reason? I mean, unless she is scared of Terri, because we know, and we'll talk more about the murder for hires, but Terry's crazy. Terry's crazy. Is she scared of her or something?
Yeah.
Chuck, we can't blame you for being angry. I'm angry. It's so hard to keep my mouth zipped without all of the extra for YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I want to say so much. Bigfoot Barbecue, I think they moved him after she showed them where the phones were. It's a possibility. That's one of the reasons why law enforcement doesn't tell everybody where they're searching for Kyron. I've actually been asked to stop showing searches. I can show the ones that were done in the beginning and up to a certain point, but I'm not allowed to talk or share other positions of the new locations because I'm trying to word this right, because they don't want him moved. They don't want them to know where they're searching. This is the only way I can put it. Sparkling Bubbles. He is so beautiful, and sadly his life cut short because of her evilness. And in my opinion, I do believe that Kyron has gone too. I hate saying that and talking about it, but I did recently come out about that, honestly, how I feel. Why do you think she did this? I think Kaylia seems to think also that this had something to do with the custody of her daughter, wanting her daughter, not wanting to fight Kane for her, because if she got rid of Kane, she could keep Kiara. If she got Kyron, there wasn't a sibling there, and if they end up going to court, no judge would want to keep the siblings, apart from one another. So Kane would automatically, since Kyron wasn't hers, would win so that siblings weren't separated. That's our opinion. I don't know. Yeah, let's throw up more of this.
Chapter 8. Drive into darkness.
Is it showing?
Yes.
When we were driving to and from the school, every time I was looking out the window, looking, searching, all the time. Never once did she ever look around. In fact, she asked me, "What are you doing?" Like she was annoyed at it. I said, "I'm looking for my son. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And she thought that was odd.
Chapter 9. Broken facade.
When Terri came in from failing one of the polygraphs, she was visibly shaken by it, and she was scrambling to try and justify herself. She's bothered by it. Not the same way I think that normal people would be, just like in a frenzy. And she's walking around the living room, and she walks over to me, and I'm sitting in a recliner, leans over the arm at me and says, "I want you to know I loved your son." And I heard it, and I looked at her and I said, "What did you say?" "I loved your son. I love my son. I love my son still. I will never stop loving my son." You said past tense, and yes. I stood up and looked at my mom, and I was in like a moment of rage. Someone has to get me. I'm going to kill her. I had to walk out of the house. I couldn't handle it. I was at my limit. And Tony looked at me from outside and knew something was wrong. And he
Damn, Desiree gets all worked up even talking about that moment. Like, could you imagine her like, I loved, past tense, I loved your son. Mm-hmm. And she even goes on in an interview and says something like she didn't say that. And she was like, I love my son. What did she say in that interview? How did she put that?
Yeah, she just denied it. She denied saying that she said it in past tense, but she didn't deny it happening. She said, I remember, like when he asked her, I feel like she said, I never said I loved my son. I said, I love my son.
Yeah.
Or I love your son or whatever. I love your son. And so again, Terri doesn't deny it. This is Terri's MO. It is everything is Terri's word versus the other person's word. That is literally how this entire case is every single aspect. So
yeah, and it has to be that way because she's realized that she cannot control the narrative no matter how hard she has tried. It has not worked out for her. Bless you, baby.
Oh, that one was Tracy.
Yes. Not your husband sneezing. We've been working in the garden and I'm sneezing 10 sneezes in the morning, 10 sneezes at night. I literally threw my back out over the weekend sneezing from being out in the garden because of my friggin' allergies and cutting down like 15 feet of bushes off of our 30 feet high bushes. It was insane. Yeah, threw my back out, couldn't move for like 10 hours.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
It was.
He came up to me and she said she loved my son. Past tense. She said loved, not love. She did something to him. And I hadn't slept in days. Tony thought I was being emotional. I said, ask my mom. She said that. That was her words. I'm not being emotional. I'm telling you. It's a fact. It got even more uncomfortable. She failed the second polygraph.
A second?
Yes.
With the FBI?
Yes. And they were able.
With the FBI? Those polygraphs are taken with the FBI? Just saying. Wasn't just law enforcement, wasn't just anybody. These were done by the FBI. I've never heard that before. And he's like, with the FBI? And she's like, yep. Failed 1, failed 2.
Able to get to another version of her timeline through that polygraph, right? And so as a result, we were concerned at that point. Tony said to me, they're not clearing her off their list. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
And so we all went into Kyron's bedroom, away from my parents, my son, and we went in there to talk. And Kane, Tony, and I confronted her. And I said to her, trying to appeal to her motherly instinct if she had one, think about it if it was Kiara. If it was Kiara and I was the last person with her, would you not want me to do everything humanly possible to clear myself? Would you not want me to take 5,000 polygraphs if I had to? If you have to take 11 polygraphs and it's uncomfortable, you do it, because we have to find Kyron. We hit her hard. We've all taken polygraphs. It's uncomfortable. That's all she vented about, how uncomfortable and awkward it was. They're mean to me. Absolutely, it's uncomfortable. I was scared to death that they wouldn't believe me, that I had nothing to do with it. But I passed because I didn't have anything to do with it. Because I have no guilty conscience. I love my son. She can't get cleared. She can't pass a polygraph because she's lying, she's deceiving, and she absolutely knew where Kyron was. And that's the question she failed. Where is Kyron? Did you have any involvement? Were you with Kyron after 8:45?
And she failed those questions?
Yes. And when they asked her to do a third, she walked out of the polygraph, got up and walked out, wouldn't finish it.
Were you with Kyron after 8:45? And she failed.
Yeah, you can't tell me that what Terri says the questions were the questions that they were asking her. You know, oh, was Kyron in the truck with you? No, they didn't give a shit about that. They were asking you, was Kyron in the truck with you after 8:45 a.m.? They wanted to know
why
that.
would law enforcement even ask her if Kyron was in the truck with her? Because she does say that that's one of the questions that law enforcement asked her, was if Kyron was in the truck with her. And of course he was.
They're like, duh, we know he was. They want to know, was he there? Yes. Are you lying about this?
School. Yes. To go to school, he had to be in your truck. Law enforcement isn't stupid. They're not going to be asking ridiculous questions. Let's get to the real stuff, Terri.
Yeah.
The real stuff is what were you doing with Kyron after 8:45? Were you with Kyron after 8:45? Why did you fail that question? Where's Kyron? She failed that. Where's Kyron? Do you know where Kyron is? She failed it. Why?
Yeah.
Oh, poor Terri. She's getting picked on. They're mean to me. I don't want to answer any more questions. God, you guys. Meanwhile, even the parents are scared to take these polygraph tests. Give me a break. You do what you have to do. so law enforcement can move on. You say what you got to say. You tell someone where you're at, what you were doing. You give out your timeline. You're not typing up your timeline. You tell them what your timeline is. You're truthful about it. Law enforcement moves on. And guess what, Terri? You wouldn't have to be sitting there so scared. You wouldn't have to be feeling so picked on by law enforcement. The only reason why that happened is because you lied and you took Kyron. Straight up.
Chapter 10. Bloodstains.
The DNA in the pickup truck. Tell me about that.
It was in the bed of the pickup.
Kyron's DNA. Do you know what type of DNA? Was it blood? Was it?
According to Terri, it was blood. She was telling them, or telling us in the house, that they had found that and had confronted her on it.
And the police have not divulged this publicly, right?
No.
Which makes
wouldn't.
sense. But she said that.
I just have to say, what the hell? First of all, why is law enforcement telling Terri that there's blood DNA in the truck? Is she lying about it? Did she lie about it to get a reaction from everybody? Was it true? Desiree saying that they haven't divulged this with the public. So has she been told by law enforcement that, this was found? Because if I were her, like our moderator on our Facebook group has said, I would be asking them straight up after Terri came into the house or whatever and said, they just told me they found blood DNA in the truck, or however she said it. I'm going to be talking to law enforcement and asking them, she just told me this. Is this true? Did you guys find something? Because I'm going to be freaking out. That's a scary thing to hear, that there's blood DNA in the truck.
Right. Yeah,
That's terrifying news.
Yeah, it is. And I agree with you completely. And you want to know something? I will just say that before the book ever came out, before any talk of this blood DNA was ever, at least to my knowledge, I feel like, was this something new that was released in the book?
No.
No, this came out before then?
I have Facebook messages that she put out. I'll have to look at the time. I'm pretty sure. Wait a minute. So in the old discussion group that isn't even active anymore is where Desiree was answering and questions. People were asking her stuff. And she made a comment to somebody about there being blood DNA evidence. And so, yes, I believe that came out after the book. So
the reason I ask is because, oh yeah, you're right. Now that I look at my screenshots, it does look like it was after the book. I saved that screenshot.
Right.
Yeah. But the reason I point that out is because before the book ever was released, way back when, around the, maybe not the original gang of Terri supporters, maybe it was the second wave of Terri supporters, not the new age ones, but the second wave of Terri supporters that were going hard for her on the internet. Somebody mentioned blood DNA in the back of the pickup truck, and Kyron Horman World Soldiers page was bringing this up and saying, oh my gosh, is Terri your source? Are you talking to Terri? Because where else would you have heard this from? And it makes me think, so Terri was telling people this too. Terri was telling her friends that police told me they had blood DNA in the back of the truck. Because how else would this Terri supporter have known this years before Desiree publicly talks about it? So it's just interesting. So again, I know I just kind of double backing. That doesn't necessarily 100% prove that Terri, this is truthful, that Terri was told this, but we always say, we come with facts, and unfortunately it's just because the Terri supporters are so adamant at spreading lies that, guess what, this has been out there for years, way before the book was released. So
oh wow, yeah, I didn't even know that. So that's crazy. And now I'm gonna have to get on Stacey Green's page and go look up blood DNA and just see what pops up.
Yeah.
Did they take the truck? They took the truck.
In the beginning, yes.
Okay.
And they did, all the workup and multiple times. Yeah.
Was that the only vehicle that they took?
Nope, the Mustang also. She basically stopped cooperating, stopped doing interviews. It was about that time that we discovered through the evidence that she had tried to hire 3 different people to kill Kane in the year leading up to Kyron.
Oh, I'm speechless. So Terri has tried to hire someone to kill her husband.
3 different people.
3 different people.
Yes.
Not 1, not 2, 3.
Yes.
Before Kyron's disappearance.
Yes. It was a week prior to Kyron going missing, where she had reached out to the 3rd person. It was a landscaper. She reached out to him in a final attempt to see if he would do it for her.
Just 3. She has mentioned this on Facebook posts. Stacey Green has talked about it. She's never talked about it publicly. 3 different people she tried to get to harm Kyron Horman. The last attempt was a week prior. I really don't feel like she really wanted to hurt Kyron. I think she just wanted to get rid of Kane, and when that didn't work, that's when her eyes shifted. I think that she had 2 plans the entire time. Either I get rid of Kane or I get rid of Kyron, but I'm going to try to get rid of Kane first. And it just didn't work. She talked to the 3rd landscaper. And we have Rudy Sanchez that came forward just 5 or 6 months prior to Kyron's disappearance. Well, he didn't come. He came forward after Kyron disappeared, but he was offered by Terri a deal for $10,000 to harm Kane 5 or 6 months prior. And then we know, because another landscaper came forward on the news, that he had a recording of Terri trying to hire him. So there's actual proof. And we've showed this in our lives before. Kaylia found it actually. And this landscaper is talking about this recording that Terri left on his, and I believe it was in April. Am I right? April before he went missing?
April 2010. Yep.
Yeah. So in April, here she is trying to hire another landscaper. So Kaylia has always speculated on whether or not this landscaper was also someone that Terri could have tried to get to hurt Kane. And after hearing this in the interview, I 100% agree with you, Kaylia.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, it's creepy to think about. And if it wasn't for necessarily hurting Kane, I believe that she could have hired an accomplice as the 3rd person in Kyron's disappearance. That's just totally speculation. Desiree doesn't say that there's any 3rd person at all. But, we have wondered amongst ourselves, like we said, how was there another truck involved? Dede didn't have a truck. So whose truck was that? Just things like that. Who was this witness or the person standing by the Horman truck that morning while Terri was allegedly inside the school? We don't know. Was it Dede? Could it have been a 3rd person? We don't know. But anyway,
well, it couldn't have been Dede because she picked Dede up at the farm.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. So it just makes you wonder if, maybe, it's still, I honestly, if I'm going to be real and get dark, I think it would be easier to convince somebody to kill or unalive, YouTube, your husband than a child tenfold. So I don't know how she could ever convince anybody. It doesn't matter how much money. How much money could she have even had to offer this person?
Right.
All
she was getting was child support from her son's dad that she divorced.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the guy that adopted him. He wasn't even the real dad. But here we've got 3 hires to off Kane in that year. We know of a 1990 boyfriend who she tried getting someone to off him. We know about another one when Cristobal, her ex-boyfriend down in California, they're laying in bed together, and she asks him if he'll get rid of a child advocate who was Stacy Green, who runs World Soldiers, because Terri can't deal with the fact that she's putting so much pressure and so much heat on Terri every single day. There's a post that Terri and Dede did it. Terri, Dede did it. Terri, Dede did it. 14 years. Terri, Dede did it. Terri, Dede did it. Period. She can't handle the heat, and actually tried to have her off too. Like, that is what's insane here. She has the guts to go around asking all of these people to get rid of other people.
You know, Sparkling Bubbles, she writes here, Terri is so dangerous. And when you just kind of compiled all of that information against Terri, it just really, really does make you believe that one of these days she's going to think she's going to get away with something and she's going to get caught for something, because listen to her track record.
Yeah, and
It's
could that be the
absolutely horrible.
reason why Dede doesn't come forward? Because she's terrified of what she's capable of?
Yeah.
Could it be? I personally don't think so. I think that
I
she's
don't
just
either.
twisted, but that's just
I
me.
don't either, because there's been several people who have befriended Dede over the years, allegedly, and I've seen people post pictures of it and talk about being friends with Dede, and Dede still adamantly defends Terri.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you really were scared, that I wouldn't think those were the words that would be coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll keep going, you guys.
2 weeks later, Kyron's father moves out of the home he shared with Terri Horman, taking his 1-year-old daughter with him. Days later, Coin6 confirms that Terri is a suspect in a murder-for-hire plot. Deputies believe she tried to hire a landscaper to kill her husband.
You could see it in the team. They were ready to go in and arrest her. They were. And when Casey Anthony happened, everything stalled. They backed up. The challenge with the Casey Anthony case was because they charged her before they had Kaylee.
Mhm.
And a lot of the evidence in that case was not admissible because of that.
Right.
And that's what scared them.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say
Guilty.
we all did it at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson.
Even she was shocked that they said not guilty.
As to the charge of aggravated child abuse, verdict as to count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all did it at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson.
Forever have a hole in my heart because he's not here.
Young and her family are still fighting for Kyron. Just last Friday, she filed a $10 million civil lawsuit against Kyron's stepmother, Terri Horman, who investigators say was the last person to see Kyron alive.
I don't want Terry's money. I want Terri to face justice. She hasn't yet taken responsibility.
The lawsuit would allow Young's lawyer, Eldon Rosenthal, to subpoena witnesses, acquire documents and evidence, and peel away the mystery of what happened to Kyron.
Through this process, I hope to compel her to accept responsibility for what she's done.
Chapter 11, Legal Crossroads.
The civil case really was, I was watching a TV show where a case had used that as a tool and had actually been able to prosecute someone based on the evidence that came from interviewing the suspect in that case.
Because in a civil case, you go through it all again. You have
You do
depositions.
discovery, you do depositions, and that deposition had brought up the inconsistencies, the lies, the provable lies, and had painted him into a corner where there was just no way around it. He murdered this girl. It was at that moment when Tony and I were watching that show that we were looking at each other going, is that a possibility for us? And that's when we started looking into it as an option. And yes, it absolutely was a possibility.
Mhm.
I had, of course, many meetings leading up to announcing it. I had the understanding that I would not have any problems getting the case file from law enforcement. It wasn't until we started moving forward, we had deposed Kane, we had deposed me, we had tried to depose Dede Spicher. We had started moving down that path where, okay, we're doing this, right? And
where she talks about here that she tried to depose Dede. She was deposed, but all Dede did over and over again is I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth. So that's where Dede comes in, pleading the fifth in 2012, you know, during this civil suit to possibly help the case, but she didn't give any help at all.
And the DA's office wouldn't give me the case file. I had to make a decision, and it wasn't just about Kyron. It was about every family of every missing child that comes after me. It would have changed the way that law enforcement would have communicated or divulged anything in a missing child case for everyone that came after me. I didn't want to do that and make it so that the family couldn't have answers or information about their child. I absolutely would have won if I pushed it in court. I could have gotten the file. I didn't want that on my heart, and I didn't want that to be Kyron's legacy. So I reluctantly had to dismiss the civil case. I don't know that we would have been successful in what I wanted. I wanted answers. I wanted Kyron. But tell me where Kyron is and give me answers. It's going to take someone who has the balls to go up against her. Because I truly believe in my heart that we will get a conviction. We have several 100,000 Kyron supporters who follow us every day.
And I just want to say that the reason why she talks about needing someone to have the balls to push forward is the current DA, as of right now, hasn't prosecuted a rape, hasn't prosecuted one murder, D-E-R, M-U-R-D-E-R, his entire time in office. This DA doesn't have the balls. This DA isn't doing anything. Hopefully Nathan Vasquez wins and this goes forward because, he is already has said that he will take on Kyron's case if he gets voted in. So hope and pray for that always. And she wants to talk about supporters. There's so many supporters for Kyron, so many supporters.
And they want justice for Kyron. They want someone to act. It just takes the right person with the guts to say, okay, if we're not ready right this second, fine, let's get ready. Let's convene a task force. Let's get all this stuff together. Get it organized. Let's get ready for prosecution. I don't know if we will be able to find Kyron. I don't know that she'll ever be truthful and reveal what she did. I don't know those things. But what I do know is that she did this. And that, okay, fine. What do we do about it? Do we let her just go off into the sunset? Do it to somebody else? She will absolutely slip up. She is a creature of habit. She has been perpetuating the same pattern after Kyron went missing. She keeps doing all the same things. She will not change. So do we allow that to happen and then her take someone else's child? No. I say we go get her. It's gonna happen. And at this point, I don't care if she goes to prison, I want my son home. No matter what the outcome was. I just want
answers. Want answers.
I
Want
want
him
to
far
be
home.
able to put this in a place where we're not still on that roller coaster. We're not still looking at every child in the grocery store that looks like it could be Kyron. We're not still looking for him. I want Kyron home. I want to be able to hug him again. I want 5 more minutes with him. But if that wasn't what she did that day, then okay. I am a reasonable person. I get it. But I want to be able to put him to rest. If that's what she did.
Chapter 12.
Ugh. It's so hard to get through that. So hard.
That is emotional.
This is where I break down every single time. I am right there with you, Kaylia. The conversation that we had earlier about why you were asking me why I thought she did this interview.
Mm-hmm.
I am really leaning in your direction of what you said, that just this is her plea to law enforcement to do something.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's time. It's a new era, and now, you know, like, I feel like, you know, she's used a lot of resources throughout the 14 years, that every resource that she's pretty much could. And social media is, she has it, like she said, hundreds of thousands of Kyron supporters. You know, we are just a small little sliver of that huge community. And utilizing social media like this, just like she did right now, blowing our minds and bringing us back in, and you know, basically doing what all of us want to do. Rally the troops. Let everybody know Kyron is still missing. We still need to bring him home. We need those answers. And I agree. This part right here gets me every time. I cannot imagine being on a roller coaster like she described it. You know, like we always describe it as being like so, you know, I can't imagine. It's very painful. Of course it is. That roller coaster of emotions is so stressful on your body. It takes a toll. She already had chronic health issues before Kyron disappeared.
she even just said in the beginning of this interview that she didn't even want to be alive anymore.
Yes. It's
I mean, and how could I can't say that I blame her for those feelings at all either. I would be in the same position. How do you go on living without your child? You're not supposed to go, or you're supposed to go. Your kids aren't supposed to go before you. I am always so heartfelt for any person who's ever lost a child. That has to be the worst pain to ever go through. To hear her say, what are we going to do? Are we going to allow Terri to go off in the sunset and just be like, okay? No, we're not.
Exactly.
There are tens of thousands of Kyron supporters out there. We are 2 of them. People in chat are even more. We're here. We're saying, go after her, grab her, use what evidence you have, circumstantial or not.
I would rather them try and fail than to have never tried. I would rather them to have tried and failed, and you never know, because they've not tried. What if she finally just gives it up? Who knows how she's really feeling and how much. I mean, I am never anybody to body shame or judge somebody, but if you look at Terri now versus how she looked, I don't mean to be rude, but she's not aging that gracefully, and she says she's had cancer. I can only imagine the weight of a dark secret like this does to your physical body. It deteriorates you. The stress of that. You don't know. Maybe if she's put under the pressure, maybe she'd give it up. I don't know, but I hope, and I was gonna comment
Karma's a
this.
bitch, okay? Karma is a bitch. If she's
Yeah.
going through anything heartfelt bad in her life, something's rotting her from the inside out. As far as I'm concerned, she deserves every little bit of it.
Oh,
Seriously.
hell yeah, she does. Hell yeah, she does. I agree. I mean, yeah, she doesn't get my sympathy. Not at all. But I'm just saying maybe one day she will be ready to be honest. I doubt it. I could never see
Yeah,
it in
I
a
doubt it.
thousand
I
years.
just don't see her doing it.
Me neither. She's a sick person. But back to what we were saying about why Desiree did this interview. I just hope, everybody should go to Doug Bishop's page. They should go like the video. They should go comment on it. They should go thank Desiree for doing this. This was huge, and I hope she doesn't stop. I hope that this is a new era of Desiree, and let's bring the truth out. And like, if Terry's gonna get away with it, well, she's not gonna get away with it socially. Let's never let anybody forget what Terry did that day.
Yeah, hopefully Desiree keeps coming forward, keeps bringing more information, because I'll tell you something that happened with this interview. I've already been on the comment section over there on Doug's YouTube, and she's on YouTube, by the way. Desiree Young's on YouTube. What? First of all, hello, that's huge. But if she keeps talking, I mean, I know one thing. She lit a fire under our asses, and she's lit a fire under the ass of everybody commenting in the Doug section too, because we wanted to hear new information. There hasn't been any new information for years and years and years. And here we've got Dede walking and telling law enforcement where they threw burner phones. There is physical evidence on those phones pointing to two people. Two.
Terry and Dede.
Yep. And we knew it too. We've known it this whole time. There's not much left, you guys.
Family fractured.
When he found out about the murder for hire plot a month after Kyron went missing, he took Kiara out of the house and filed a restraining order. And that was when he filed for divorce. It actually took, I believe, 2 years for it to be final, because he had written into the paperwork and stuff that she had to be compelled to speak. And she could not get visitation without adhering to some of these stipulations. She refused to do any of that. And so it was kind of a stalemate situation, which I feel like we're in now. But he had to basically wait her out and then finally just force the issue. I mean, he came to Tony and I and asked us to take Kiara. And I wanted to. Man, that was my reflex. But I told him that he needed to get to know his daughter, and he didn't need another woman coming in and saving him from this. Yeah. That he needed to do this to be a better person, a better father, and just an overall involved dad. I wasn't going to save him from that. And he keeps having these people that come in and help him.
Yeah.
Well, and I told him above all, he needed to protect Kiara.
Yeah.
It just absolutely blows my mind that Kane asked her to take Kiara.
Mm-hmm. He was under a lot of stress. But at the end of the day, I believe that, I mean, I don't know either of these people, but, I believe that there's, he obviously wasn't 100% serious about that because he didn't push the issue super duper hard. But he was.
I actually had somebody message me after the book was written, because she says this in the book, and we had a conversation, and she said that she thought that maybe he was wanting to give Kiara to her so that he could off himself because of the guilt and the pain and sorrow that he felt for Kyron being gone, for being with the person that that's responsible for Kyron being gone. And that kind of like stuck with me. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, he was going through a huge emotional
that's a
turmoil.
good
I'm
point.
sorry I cut you off.
No, that's a very true point. I never considered that, but yeah, if I'm going to imagine putting myself in his shoes, I could see that crossing my mind. Yeah. And Chuck also says, could it be a safety concern? You know, we just don't know.
Right.
It was definitely, there was reasons behind that, but like Sparkling Bubbles said, the best thing that Terri ever did was abandon her daughter, because her daughter is safe, happy, healthy, and away from Terri. So
Exactly.
that was actually a huge gift that Terri gave her daughter.
Because she refused to go talk to the courts and stuff.
She
because
refused an
knew-
evaluation.
Yep.
She just refused everything. She would not. She actually refused to produce a single item of discovery up until they forced her, and then she did do a deposition, I believe, where she pled the fifth as well through Terry's her deposition as well. But she tried to fight even producing anything at all in the court trial. She just said, "Don't make me even participate in this," and the court was like, "No, that's not how this works."
Yep.
So,
all because she didn't want to have to talk about what happened to Kyron. She gave up everything for her daughter, everything. Seeing her, visitations, anything. She hasn't seen her in 14 years, all because she didn't want to talk about Kyron. Tell me that doesn't scream guilt.
that's that's probably, in my opinion, my personal like, if I was going to rank them, that'd be number one, other than people seeing her leave. This would still top that. A mother abandoning her own daughter to protect herself. When she says she's innocent. Yeah.
I think mine is burner phones on the 4th. They're both missing. And now we know they were tossed into the woods by both of them. They have the information, and now there's evidence on it. Like, I've always been on this phone kick.
Yeah.
And then when I found the information on her Facebook about the June 4th, I was like, what? There was phones on June 4th too? Because it's just you don't.
We always thought maybe it was at a typo or something, because we had never seen that anywhere else, and never even, that's the only comment you've ever found about burner phones on June 4th. So now hearing it straight from her mouth.
Yes. Now she's talking about it. Now she's saying they had access to those phones 2 weeks after Kyron came up missing.
Huge.
So that is huge. That is burner phones. When Kyron disappeared, that's burner phones again at the end of the month. And let's just face it, if they're friends now, even her boyfriend down in California said she had one of those throwaway phones, one of those burner phones.
Oh, yeah. Up until 2016, 2017. I bet she still does today.
Exactly. I bet you she does. And I bet you that they still talk on one. Okay, almost done.
Yeah.
And don't ever sacrifice that. And I said, I will come and hunt you down if you ever let her have visitation. Seriously, if I hear of one visit.
Yeah.
And he was like, I know. I said, I don't think you do. I'm not going to save you from this, but I swear to God, no. She hasn't adhered to any of the stipulations. She barely has paid child support. She had to clear herself and sit down with law enforcement about Kyron's case. Still hasn't done any of that. She had to navigate supervised visits, which she never did any of that. She just took off. There's tons of things that she had to adhere to in order to get to a point where she could reintegrate.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't done any of it. And Kiara, I got to think of how old she is now. 16? She was at Kyron's school and has moved on to, I believe she's in 9th or 10th grade now. So, but Skyline only goes up to 8th grade, but she was there still. I saw her, the last time I got to see her was at the 5-year mark. And Chris, Kane's mom, brought her to me. I can't tell you. There's a piece of Kyron in there. She looks like him. And poor Kiara, she probably thought I was a crazy person. When you have a child, you just have this innate inside yearning to touch them. And when I saw her, I didn't even think about it. I just scooped her up and hugged her and cried. And she remembered me though. And it just was huge. I was so grateful that Chris did that. But I miss Kiara because, I saw her all the time, and I always was involved, and she would always come to me. It's sad. Those are things that you lose in this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I pray that she's doing good. I pray that Kane has done the right things, and
Chapter 13. Echoes of Silence.
well, and honestly, we have far more evidence now today than we did back then.
Yes. And that's the next thing I was getting to. We have a grand jury that was convened early on, within a couple of months.
Yeah.
Had we had everything that was known today in that grand jury, what would have been the outcome?
I believe we would have indicted.
Has a grand jury been convened since?
Not in the fashion that you're thinking of, where they're listening to try and do a charge, right?
Okay.
And just want to make this clear, the reason that she's saying the way is because the grand jury in Kyron's case was eventually turned into a grand jury that brought in evidence. They were an investigative grand jury. They were being used to investigate. Like, for instance, in 2017, they told law enforcement to go look on Sauvie Island again for Kyron. They've been, Kaylee, you can kind of explain this a little bit more of just like circumstances in the case and stuff.
Excuse me. Yes, the grand jury was convened very early. And I mean, we've talked about this before on the channel, Samantha and I on the group. When it's that early on, what are they even trying to indict for? They don't know if Kyron's alive or not. They have no proof he's not alive. So they really weren't seeking an indictment. And when she says that, like, it's not in what you're thinking, where they're sitting there hearing evidence and going to vote. Are we going to bring charges against Terri or not? What they're doing is they're using the investigative grand jury as a secret investigative tool. It's a very powerful way of issuing subpoenas in secret and keeping this case super under wraps. I mean, they weren't even supposed to be recording who was coming out of the grand jury building. Like, we're lucky to have even seen the videos that we saw, because they didn't want anybody to see that. And when I actually had, just by happen chance or however that, whatever that word is, happenstance, I met somebody on Facebook who said they were the grand jury foreperson for Kyron's grand jury in 2017. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. And the reason this had came up is because the thread was talking about searching for Kyron on Sauvie's Island. And this person said, I was the grand jury foreperson in 2017. And I can tell you that at that time, you know what? Why don't I find it? Let me find it so I can just read because it's been so long. I don't want to misquote her.
Yeah, I think like using the word secret too. That's exactly how it's been described over the years. A secret grand jury convening to just put together, evidence, to keep trying to solve Kyron's case. You know, they have kept everything close to the vest, right? And we know from just what we've been told here recently that we, the public, only know less than a tenth of the information that law enforcement has on Kyron. There's tens of thousands of files on him. And just think that we already believe that 100% she would be convicted if she went. I believe that. I know so many others that believe she would be found guilty. If there's more out there, you know, that's why I really hope Desiree just keeps talking, keep telling us the more, keep telling his story, keep giving the public information to keep the awareness and this thriving feeling. Like, it's really sad to say, this exciting feeling that I have being able to move forward, knowing what I know, is compelling me more and more. I'm already thinking about, what else am I going to do? What else can I say? Where else can I put up flyers? Is it time to even put up Terri and Dede flyers again? Like,
yeah, right.
Let's just go for it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. I found that thread super quick. It's not long. How this happened, I actually asked, does anybody know about any searches on Sauvie Island? Benefits of having, you know, connections, I guess. And someone replies saying, yes, there have been searches. And I said, do you know when and where? And they replied saying, it was a request during my time as the grand jury foreperson in 2017. And then I said, how many searches was your impression that the investigators were on the right track? And then she replied, my knowledge is limited to what the public is allowed to have. So she kept it very brief, but she said, yes, there have been searches on Sauvie's Island, and it was because of this. And that was really intriguing to both Samantha and I. And that's when I really dug into what the powers of the grand jury can do and how it does operate as a secret investigative tool for the investigators. And it makes perfect sense that they were using the grand jury as that, because they were trying to keep, we all know how close to the vest they keep these details. They have never wanted any of these details out from day one. They've always been super tight-lipped. And so what better way to do so than using the secret grand jury and doing everything in secret? So it's just interesting. And she just confirms it right here. Not in the sense that you're thinking where, you know, like you hear in a movie, oh, the grand jury voted to indict. No, that's not what this grand jury is doing. This grand jury is helping the investigation progress.
Yep. Putting out, you know, like you were saying, they're anything that they need, they go through the grand jury. The grand jury says we want it, and they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I believe that would be a good move to make.
A game changer.
Yeah.
What is that going to take in Multnomah County to happen? What's the hang up there?
It will take new people, someone who has the guts to go forward against Terri, and it's not the current DA. Mike Schmidt will not do anything. He doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't have the guts. He doesn't have the integrity. He's not going to do it. So I say, let's get a DA that will. I know a lot of things that indicate to me what she did, which is a horrible picture for me to have in my head. But it's been over 13 years where this has developed. It's all the evidence. It's the physical evidence, the circumstantial evidence. It's the DNA in the pickup. All the things that we have that indicate what she did. The one thing that I hold on to, because a lot of people come to me and say, well, when you're prosecuting a case like this, you can't say if Kyron's out there in the world somewhere. And I say this, Kyron relied on one person that day. That's it. Terri's it. He relied on her that day. He was with her. She had him. It's the worst kind of evil.
It's just absolutely heartbreaking. I sit here and I got my headphones on. It makes it so much more emotional to listen to the music, see all of the pictures, to see that we're just here, we're fighting, still to bring Kyron home 14 years later. I really hope to see some people at our event on June 1st at 10 a.m. Skyline Elementary School in Portland, Oregon, to pass out flyers. We need volunteers. Not even sure how many people are going to show up, but that's what we need from you guys. If you're in the area, please help us come pass out. Then go get your car washed, or go get your car washed and then come. Doesn't matter how you do it. Support Kyron any way you can. Share his face, share his flyer. If you have any tips at all about Kyron's whereabouts or what I call persons of interest in this case, if you saw anything, June 4th, 2010, or surrounding days leading up to it or afterwards, please call the tip line at 503-988-0560. No tip is too small. Chris Madonna says it today. The public is usually the people that end up solving these kinds of cases. It's the tips that come rolling in. That one phone call that says, hey, by the way, this is what I saw. And boom, people start getting arrested. So if you know something, it's time to call. It's been 14 years. You've been holding that secret in way too long. You may think that it's not important, and it could turn into be the most important thing you could actually tell law enforcement. Again, the telephone number for the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office tip line is 503-988-0560. I just want to thank everybody for being here. We appreciate you all. Chuck, you asked earlier if we've thought about interviewing Desiree. We have thought about it. I kind of feel like, you know what? Desiree's talking. Why not hit her up? See if she wants to continue to talk. Who knows? Maybe she will. We don't know. There's a $50,000 reward for any information leading to the resolution of Kyron Horman. Thank you for reminding me, Kalia. Dede Spicher, Terri may be plotting a murder for hire against you. Safety is putting her in prison. Dede, this must be eating you alive.
Right. That's how I think. That's exactly the way I see it.
And yeah, always sending prayers to the family for Kyron. We're always praying for Kyron. We love Kyron. Kyron's always going to be our number one. We just absolutely, got to keep putting the pressure where pressure's needed, and we have to keep his beautiful face out there. Kyron means the world to us. We do get a little bit of fans come in every now and then, like, we do a lot of Kyron, and we do. He's our number one. We love him to death. So thank you, beautiful ladies, for keeping Kyron's name out there. Your information you all put out is so important. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here, Sparkling Bubbles. And if you guys ever want to come over to our Facebook group, Kyron Horman Case Revisited.
I'll link it.
We take all of our information from here and we put it all over there, plus so much more. You can read about things. You can use the search icon at the top to search for things if you're interested. You can discuss. You can post. We love hearing from people over there. So join our Facebook, join the discussion, or peek behind the bushes. I also, again, want to thank everybody who became a member tonight. Thank you, Whisperers. We really appreciate the support. That's amazing.
It truly is. We appreciate your support. And, I want to go back to Sparkling Bubbles real quick where, you said it. Your information you put out is so important. Thank y'all. It is a two-way street. If it weren't for you guys, the information would go nowhere. So thank you. Really, it does mean a lot. And with that, I appreciate y'all. And I hope you have a great remaining rest of your week.
Yep. Thank you for being here with me, Kalia. We love Kyron, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. We've enjoyed having everybody here, everybody, asking questions and everything. And we just really appreciate you guys and hope you enjoyed the show. Everybody have a good night. We love you guys. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for being part of Kyron's family and our YouTube channel family. We appreciate you. Good night.
Bye.